Breakfast. They're marketed as the alternative to smoking. Smoother, cooler, the digital to a smelly old cig. But there's growing concern that vaping is being targeted at children and underage teenagers, and at Māori and Pacifica in particular. Now, an anti-vaping group run by parents says it's frustrated the government isn't doing more to ban advertisers from targeting children online. Tammy from Vape-Free Kids New Zealand joins us now. Welcome, Tammy. This is supposed to be illegal, isn't it, this sort of advertising? It
is, definitely. These are the kids that are under 18 that are being targeted by this advertising. And as parents, we're just really scared at the scale of the exposure that this is showing that our kids are having to vaping.
You and I were just having a brief discussion in the ad break. We are not talking about traditional ads that you would see on television. In fact, as a parent, trying to uncover this sort of quite direct marketing can be quite difficult.
Yeah, these are really sophisticated targeting and algorithms that are serving up this stuff to our kids. So yeah, most parents won't see this, but for kids it's really normalising and influencing them to think that vaping is a cool thing that they should be looking into.
And so where are they seeing it? What are the platforms and how are they seeing this?
Well, most kids are on Instagram and TikTok as the two main ones, and that's where these advertisers are targeting. And yeah, just our kids are on them all day. So,
but it's not a direct ad, right? It's not a billboard like you'd see rolling down the street. This is someone else saying to them.
No, so they can be really well disguised. Kids aren't even aware that they're being marketed to in most instances, right? So these are influencers and content creators that are not necessarily being upfront about their role with potential vape stores or companies. So yeah, kids just won't even recognise it, and it's really just creating this normalisation of vaping.
Now, we're having this interview because you come from a group that obviously advocates for more control over this sort of advertising or access to it, but your own research is now backed up by this University of Auckland study that found youth between 14 and 17, in particular Māori and Pacifica teens, were more likely to see vaping ads than those aged 18 to 20 who are in the legal bracket. So how are these companies getting away with it?
They're not being stopped. You know, they're unethically targeting our kids in their most vulnerable point. They're adolescents, right in the middle of figuring out who they are. They're highly influenced by advertising and trends and peers, and it's really downright unethical that they're being targeted in this way.
So you already kind of had an idea this was happening. What did you make when you saw the evidence in the form of this study?
Well, I hope it just uncovers for people that they realise that this is being curated really carefully to addict kids to vaping and bring them up as the next generation of teens or of users of nicotine to support big tobacco.
It's a discussion we have been having on and off on this program and obviously in media broadly for a number of years now, and across the previous government and now into the new government. When you see the way the incoming government is dealing perhaps with smoke-free legislation or restrictions around that, what do you feel would be their approach to regulating vaping even more?
Well, we're really disappointed, I guess, to see the repeal of smoke-free, because that was the framework that would have reduced the availability of both cigarettes and vaping.
Do you have concerns now that vaping as an issue or the way that it's regulated will remain as it stands or perhaps loosen?
Yeah, really scared, because this leaves vaping, and they've said so, as one of the key tools to support achieving a smoke-free target.
It is one of the tools though, right? It is used as a cessation tool.
Yes, it is, but that should be targeted at people that are smoking cigarettes currently. You can't even go into a store and see cigarettes on the shelf. They're hidden away. They're not allowed to have any packaging, yet all these stores, dairies, gas stations, supermarkets, dedicated vape stores, are all allowed to promote that they've got vapes in the stores. How is that supporting people that are cigarette smoking today?
When we look at some of the restrictions that have come into play already, we see next month, I think it is March, the start of restrictions around things like flavourings. Does that give you any confidence that some of this focus will narrow, or that the attention from teenagers and kids will lessen? They won't be as attracted if it's not marshmallow flavoured anymore?
No, it's not enough. The vape industry's already got around all of those regulations. They are one to remove, to make disposables less available by putting removable batteries in them. They've already got around that. They actually promote it on posters in their stores to say, you know, that this is a fits within the legislation, but it doesn't change the behaviour. They're still cheap, they're still handed out easily, kids can still get their hands on them, the flavours are still there, whether they call it, you know, pink rainbow or raspberry, it's still an attractive flavour for kids.
And so what do we need then in terms of refining the access and who has access?
We really need the government to step up and put the regulation in place and effectively enforce it. And it needs to address the availability. They don't need to be available at 7,500 locations across the country. You know, they need to put in support for the current generation of kids that are already addicted to nicotine. And they need to address the education, this perception that they've created that vaping is a safe alternative. Our vulnerable communities and our children have just taken that on board, and that it's not that bad. It's okay. It's just not.
Have you appealed to, or will you be appealing to, I guess the person responsible might be the Associate Health Minister, Casey Costello? Yes, we've reached out to the House Select Committee, we've reached out to Casey, we're trying to encourage them to talk to us, and so that we can share the experiences that parents are having. The parents in our group are telling us, you know, daily on the despair that they're experiencing in their families trying to support their kids on these vaping. What is the concern if kids are vaping? What are they seeing in their families?
Well, they're seeing them really quickly get addicted. A kid's developing brain is highly sensitive to nicotine, and their addiction, you know, it just starts to stop them from being able to concentrate on anything else. They're always looking for the next hit, right? And then this deceitful behaviour becomes the lying. If they want to stop, you know, the struggling and the self-loathing at not being able to stop. It is such an impressionable time in their life. It's just really heartbreaking.
Yeah. And you are fighting a good fight. Tammy Downer from Vape-Free KidsNZ, thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
And also I want to add to Tammy's argument that education is key. I know with teenage boys that they have come across the vaping, and it's important to sit down with your kids and talk to them about the repercussions or the consequences of vaping. But you know, my lads, 15, 17, they'll say to me, but Dad, it looks cool, they're doing it because it's cheap, like Tammy said, it's attractive, and it is cool. And it's not because of the branding walking around the streets, it's because they're tapping into social media like TikTok, as Tammy said, Instagram, and it's all there. They see it, and so they believe that it is a cool way of meeting friends and connecting with people, but it's just, yeah, I just cannot believe how widespread it is. And if you're a parent who thinks that your child doesn't vape or know anything about vaping in their teenage years, you are dreaming.
That's that advertising is way more insidious too, isn't it? Because they sort of got away with all the colours and all that sort of thing. But actually, if it's always there on your phone, where they always are, it's going to be getting to them, isn't it?
It is indeed.